Hello and welcome back to a new Rage Gaming video. My name is Hollow and today we're at last talking some more Blue Protocol, the anime-styled action RPG developed by Bandai Namco, who are confirmed to be bringing the game to the West sometime after its initial Japanese release. The game that's a bit less of an MMO than originally thought, defined as an online action RPG, while designed to be like an anime movie realized in a game, which is super comparable to another MMO no longer, Crimson Desert, which recently walked back on their original description of the game, now also a story-focused action RPG with MMO elements. Lately, our MMO picks here in the West has been a bit lacking, with a few big names still in long development. We haven't had a proper new MMO to enjoy in a little while. And now we're seeing multiple previous MMOs walk back their official description of their game, so I wonder what's going on. Blue Protocol is still one of my main picks for upcoming MMOs, having played the Japanese beta last year. And while it may not be planned to have millions of players and be massively multiplayer in that way, I still think it's going to be a fantastic multiplayer experience based on that world, the gameplay, the setting and fun of it. And again, I saw thousands of players bloody everywhere during my brief time playing it, and I would have definitely considered that an MMO. With last major developments being all about new zones and additions to the game, like potential 5th class coming at launch that we've yet to see yet, we decided to step back and let some more real news roll in before I do another video. And I'm happy to say today we have some interesting news to talk about. New combat gameplay featuring new core improvements that look really good, the potential for console release only being increased by a new feature, and on top of that, details about what we can expect after the game releases and maybe even PvP. So let's talk about it. I'll start with that combat update because I'm very happy with what I'm seeing here. As you may know, the 4 main classes of Blue Protocol have been seeing ongoing improvements since we initially tested them in that beta last year. The visuals for many classes and their abilities have already been improved, and the devs themselves explained that since they want to keep the UI and gameplay minimal but maintain that important depth, when it comes to the mechanics of the combat back in that beta, we had light attacks and heavy attacks and the combos you could associate depending on which of these you used in which combination. Then we also had our 4 main abilities, including your unique ultimate ability depending on your class, and then everyone gets to assign 2 slots for your imajinn summons. The imajinns being a really cool summon system in which you defeat monsters around the world, dungeons or otherwise, and then unlock the ability to summon them and help you in combat later on. Overall, I felt that it was a really good concept for the combat, but ultimately I definitely did find myself feeling the shallow nature of it, repeating the same 2 combos and weaving basic abilities in that, and then basically hitting my ultimate whenever I literally had it available. And that mostly felt the same for each of the 4 classes, those basic combos with ability weaving. We had it explained to us that they want the classes to feel a bit more unique and certainly more satisfying before they go on to create a whole set of other classes that might also feel shallow. But now we can take a look at some of those improvements they've been working on. This update focuses mostly on melee combat improvements. The new evasion attack lets us attack an enemy after aggressively dodging damage at the last second. Rather than moving away or rolling before the attack comes out, if we evade at the last second, almost like a parry, we're able to do solid damage in return. Like the Aegis fighter will make use of blocks and parries where possible, this gives the Twin Striker and other future melee classes new high-paced combo options while staying near the enemy, chaining hits into hits into hits, and evading at the right time to avoid damage. A universal improvement for melee combat. And secondly, the new Assault attack adds a new plunge attack. By leaping into the air and attacking, we will perform various plunge attacks for shock waves of damage, dealing damage to any enemy caught in the small area of impact, so a reliable AoE. You can perform it during normal combat by leaping in the air, or leap from a high point to increase its effect, knocking enemies down and dealing even more damage the further you fall. And again, while these 2 concepts are short, simple, these are the types of updates that anyone can use at any time, outside of your standard abilities and combos. It should change the flow of the combat to provide new options depending on your environment and also your reaction time, rewarding someone who's more skilled, more engaged with the gameplay and paying attention, which I'm very happy with. Before this, we saw the update for the spellcasters, in which we have new elemental attacks and effects and movesets entirely, depending on what element you would choose. And now with this melee improvement, I think we're going in a really good direction. But moving on, our next Blue Protocol news is the very recent reveal of the new shortcut ring. An interesting update from the devs because while it definitely has that common quality of life improvement to bring up, say, emotes easily, this wheel is actually designed for more than just that, letting you assign items, stamps, and other quick use interactions alongside, emotes, which should provide very convenient use. Certainly something nice to have as any PC player, but why I care about this more than just that is because this type of wheel is crucial when it comes to playing an MMO on a console. And I only recently talked about if Blue Protocol would even come to console and when, as it is a very commonly asked question. And while I definitely think it's possible, and in fact very logical for Bandai to bring the game to console, I think we still have a long way to go before they could even properly do it. After all, the game needs to release in Japan first this year, and then come to the West shortly after that, then a console version, hopefully sometime after that. This wheel, however, is the absolute perfect addition when considering playing the game with a controller, which, by the way, was fully supported in the beta already. They clearly have Blue Protocol being played on a gamepad in mind, and therefore that makes the game long-term viable to play on console. While I could just press a keybind for a certain item or pull up certain interactions, a console player would need to put in a bit more work to even bring up the menus and choose what they want. A wheel like this lets them instantly perform the action they desire. Plus, I mean, from that image, it looks like a very easy to edit UI, letting you essentially set up your own binds on the wheel for any combination of actions. Literally ideal for a gamepad user. That's very interesting. But finally, what will be next for Blue Protocol when it does release? Well, we have a good idea of what the devs have been considering from the feedback questionnaire after that beta. This questionnaire and the way the devs dealt with the feedback itself was incredible. Very, very in-depth, very seriously taken on board. I just thought it was addressed really well. I was really happy with it. But specifically what we're interested in right here is that 34th question about what players expect to see in the game in the future. And it had a lot of options to select, all of which are things the devs must be considering adding to the game at some stage. This is just clearly to gauge interest from the player base so they can see which updates are most important and which they should work on first. There are options like player housing, obviously the new classes, or more various content like mini games outside of the main content of the game. But most interesting to me was the question of PvP, the desire of the player base hoping for a real player against player combat system which is currently not planned to be in game. With Blue Protocol, it was designed to be a true PvE experience with dungeons, world content, raiding, and even a special arena which encouraged a type of speedrunning competition where players would try to make it further the fastest against waves of enemies in the arena. While true PvP wasn't something the devs envisioned for the game, and explained that they want to focus on what their vision of the game is, which I'm all for that. However, there it is, clear as day, the devs checking with the player base for their interest, and maybe even be willing to do it if the players really wanted it. First of all, God, these devs are incredible. And secondly, very unexpected. Could they genuinely be considering PvP for the game after all? I'd be happy if they just do their thing and fulfill their vision, but ultimately, a lot of people, including myself, have been asking, will PvP ever come to this game? With them improving the combat with the new evade style parries and environment based attacks, I just think it could be really cool, but something they'll need to take seriously and consider carefully when it comes to balancing their various classes, especially when they add more. But I think it's entirely possible, especially with them asking that we might see PvP in the game eventually. But anyway, that is everything for now. It feels so good to check in with Blue Protocol again at last, and I can't wait to see some major updates from the devs whenever they're ready to do so, be that in like a new live stream or whatever. I really enjoyed my short time with the beta. I'm still very pumped to play this game in the future. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and I'll see you next time.